Hi, it's Steve again from Divine Wind Soap. I'd like to discuss today a little bit how to repair soap. We've always had little problems, any soap maker, with the edge of the mold now and then, or a cavity, or some alteration that's occurred that's kind of ruined one of our bars of soap a little bit, and I've come upon a way to repair those where they can still be a saleable bar. Before I proceed with that, I would like to refer back to my video on how to eliminate ash and impart two more thoughts to you. One is that once I spray on the alcohol and the water with the bars of soap, I let those set 24 hours before I do anything with them. The second thing I'd like to impart to you is that I think you can prevent a lot of ash by reducing the evaporation rate of your soap once you have unmolded and cut it. When I unmold and cut my soap, I usually line it up in this manner, maybe about a 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch apart, and then put them on a shelf that has a rack underneath. I have found that if at the same time I put a piece of plastic or a board or some covering loosely over the top, that it inhibits the evaporation enough to reduce the amount of ash that we get. So I might recommend that you do that. I'm also pleased to say that one thing Congress does do well for us is they leave all of these political signs around after the elections, and they're worthless except to us soapers, and we can use them for a lot of neat things. So that's one way that I use those. Now I'd like to show you how I repair and holes and various defects in soap. I have two bars here, one on a corner, and this bar here has some minor defects throughout and down through here. The first thing I do is trim the bar, and again I use my cheese cutter to trim the edges. What this does for me is it gives me material to work with to make the repair. Sometimes you can use, depending upon the color of your soap, you can use about any color. And sometimes you might want to use exactly what you've taken off the soap. So this is what I first do. It also, by doing the edge trimming, it gives me a little bit of an idea of the extent of what the defect actually is, so that I'm not over or under correcting the defect. So there's that. So we have our raw material. Now what I do with this is I put it in a small container, and I grab some of our miracle solution, the 91% alcohol, and I spray it in there and let that set for a little while. That softens that soap. Then I take my bar that I want to repair, lay it down, and again I take my alcohol and I spray a thin coat on the soap. What that does, I think, is softens that soap and makes it amenable to the patch occurring. My tools for soap repair is this little butter knife, and sometimes I use this little spatula or putty knife from the store. But what I do is once that's set up, and once I have these, I'll pick out a piece that has about a similar approximation, and I'll lay it down in there, and I'll press it with my spatula, and I'll lay some more down in there and press that in there, and just work it in a little bit. It's usually easiest to put a little extra in, because you can always smooth it off, and if you need a little piece here or there, you can do something like this. This little hole here, I'll just bring the piece up, put it right next to it, smooth it out, and that little hole is then covered. I'll do the same thing here. I'm doing this with a different color so that you could see the repair. And same thing here, I put that in, smooth that out. Again, I could trim this bar or scrape this bar's surface a little bit later if I want to smooth it all out, but it doesn't take very long to just press those pieces of soap in and let the alcohol do its trick. And sometimes I'll just get a little bit there, so I have a little bit to work with, and just move that around, spread that over here, come back to this part. This is a little deeper opening, so sometimes you have to be a little more aggressive with the pressure that you put on. Press that into the side, press that in there. We still have a hole. I'm going to reach in here, grab some more of this soap, press that into there, just break off the pieces enough to where they're about the right size. Don't be too worried about how it looks at this stage of the game, because as you get closer and closer to putting the finishing touches on, it will compress and fill in there very nicely. A lot of times for a universal color, black will repair just about anything, and our eye really doesn't see black too well, so it will just look beyond it. I think you could see here that we're doing just a bit here on this beveled edge. I'm pressing, and again, a little pressure in there pushes it down, pushes the excess alcohol out, pushes the soap into those little areas that you want to fill in. And later on, I'll probably spray a little bit of alcohol lightly on the surface and just go over and do this again. But I think you get the idea right here, going in there. Now, I will caution you to use the 91% alcohol, because the dissolvability of that is much better as far as the soap is concerned, and you'll get better adherence between the two surfaces you're repairing. But I think you can see that that's starting to look pretty good. I did discover another thing, and that is my scraper box. When I would scrape the flat surface of the soap, you get these very fine pieces off. And sometimes if you have to put on a little bit of a new cover, those can do as kind of like a little skin graft. They can look quite nice and reestablish a pattern on there for you. So you put just a little bit of pattern back on there, and that pretty well does it. The bar of this nature, when you have a large defect on the corner like that, I'm not going to go through the process, but that's when I use another metal tool to just kind of have that square on the corner, and then I could use that and hold my soap in there and push my repair down into there. And as I build that up and push it down and the soap adheres, that will gradually make a square corner out of that. So it takes just a little bit of dexterity and getting used to, but it goes fairly quickly. And if you have a little bit of this soap pre-dissolved and ahead of time so it's ready to go, takes just a little bit. This is probably not set long enough to really get set in, but I think you could see how this edge then becomes more solid. When you're doing and manipulating this, don't go from the bar outwards, you'll scrape it off. You always want to start from the center or from the edge of the bar, press down against it, and come into the bar so that you're molding and welding that soap back into position. So sorry that was a little bit ragged there, but I think you get the idea, and I think you could see the idea on this piece. So that's how I repair soap, and if you could save a few bars that you don't have to put in the scrap pile, then that's good. So thank you all for watching, and I'll probably have another video in the future concerning a mold that I made. Thank you.